Hi everyone, hope you guys are doing well. By the way, for anybody who is a new subscriber on here, if you want to get a hold of all of the previous videos that you have missed, all the unlisted ones, they're not on YouTube. I post completely different stuff on YouTube, more reshuffling really content from Instagram onto YouTube. But if you want to get access to the unlisted videos, they're in your video letter that I send out. There's a black button that says archival unlisted library, so you can get access to all of those things. But today, I want to talk about 10 of Wands. This is a very interesting card for me because I know that represents oppression and a lot of times taking on too much or carrying too much or getting to the point where it's unbearable for you to carry things or getting to the point where you just really exhausted yourself, where you can barely bear and you're about to break. To me, this is a very interesting card because I actually, over the years of working with this card, have coined it as, instead of Lord of Oppression, I coined it for myself as Lord of Imprisonment of the Soul. And I would like to elaborate a little bit more on that. First of all, this card always struck me as making me feel like this is prison bars. Every time I look at the card, I have very strong association to prison bars, as if a person is imprisoned behind bars. And actually, one time in a reading on a personal client of mine, I was working with a client. I no longer work with them, but they were really struggling, and they actually had quite a few severe mental health issues and had issues with housing. And one time they just didn't show up for appointment. I couldn't get a hold of them. They didn't show up for the following appointment. I couldn't get a hold of them. And I was really concerned. I was really worried about them. And so I did a tarot reading, and this card came up. And what turned out to be true after a few more reaching out attempts and then eventually getting hold of their family is I found out that they were in fact jailed for a short period of time. So sometimes this literally can mean jail time or prison time. But I find this card so interesting because people tend to see this card as, and it's usually depicted in Rider-Smith or in other decks, Rider-Waite-Smith-like decks, where the person is just cannot carry things anymore. They're carrying something, a heavy load on their back, and they're going up a steep hill, and they just can't carry it any longer. And I get it. I get, because we're talking about Sagittarius being pinned down by Saturn, and Saturn likes to slow things down. Saturn likes to teach us how to move more slowly and more intentionally, and Sagittarius really likes to move relatively quickly. For me, this card is more about imprisonment of the souls. What do I mean by that? What it tends to represent for me in my personal readings, for me again and again and again, are times in my life where instead of following my soul intentions, my soul callings, things that I internally feel out to be called out to do, I end up taking on a lot of other things as perhaps part of coping mechanisms, as perhaps part of self-sabotaging myself, as perhaps part of self-avoidance, to the point where I have so many things to carry that I don't have room now for things that are important for my soul. And this is why I call it imprisonment of the soul, because I'm not letting my soul live free and to really execute its own plans. And I find this consistently happening to me again and again and again, especially in the moments when I literally taken on so many other things, but I would rather engage with something that is much more deeper and much more in alignment with me as a human being. So I think this is very interesting in the sense that this is much more spiritual than just about carrying heavy load. Yes, you are taking on too much. Yes, you are carrying heavy load up the hill. But what is the deeper meaning of that heavy load? How did you come about getting that heavy load? How did you come around gathering or getting yourself involved in so many things? In readings for my family members, sometimes I see this card come up and again for a particular family member of mine that has gotten, neck deep, if you will, in responsibilities, in so many other things, and they really want to do something else with their life, and they feel like they absolutely can't. because they literally feel like their soul is imprisoned. So I see it come up much more in a spiritual sense to our inner self growth versus in this overburdening, feeling oppressed, carrying too much. So this is a card that slams in, if we were looking for it in a sense of a decans, astrological decans, right? So we have here Sagittarius, which is our temperance, and then we have our Saturn, which is our world card. When I look at Sagittarius and Saturn together, or when I look at temperance and the world together, what I actually see is this. I see alchemy of ourself, alchemy of our soulness, alchemy of, it's like an acorn of what we're meant to do, and how that acorn, how that soul calling is embedded in a larger picture of the world. This is how I see it. I don't see the world as something coming to an end type of card, not when they're pinned like this together. So when I see them together, I see a very spiritual calling. It almost says, well, what are you called to alchemically create in this world, right? What are you called to combine between body, soul, and spirit in order to manifest in this world? This is how I see these two cards. So it's no wonder that they're also representation of 10 of Wands. And it's no wonder that I see 10 Wands as literally imprisonment of the soul. If you think about prison, jail, one doesn't just get to prison and jail by accident. Oh, sure, there are, of course, absolutely wrong cases of imprisonment and whatnot, but by far and large, we can also agree that there's a lot of people that end up behind the bars because of the choices they made. So another thing, important aspect for me about this card is that this is also about the choices we make. We make a choice to burden ourselves with all of the things we tend to carry up that hill. So therefore, we made also a choice not to execute the calling of our soul. And a lot of times when we are, by proxy of our choices, are literally behind the bars, that is also something that we've done to ourselves. So there's quite a bit of actual accountability and responsibility embedded in this card. When I see this card, this card comes up for me, I have to look around and I have to ask myself, where in my life am I not leaving room for my soul? Where in my life I'm pressing so hard on everything else, and perhaps even doing that as a way of avoiding really focusing on what I need to focus on because I'm afraid. Let's be honest, it is really scary to focus on soul's calling. A lot of times soul's calling is something that for a lot of us just to take on can be terrifying. Some of the soul's calling things can be very creative. They could be very grandiose in a sense. They also could be very diverse. And we don't know how it's going to pan out. So the fear is going to be a normal part of it, right? So again, when I get this card, this is what I see. I see imprisonment of the soul. And I see that imprisonment of the soul by my own doing, if you will. And then I have to ask myself, what's going on here? Crowley is actually in this book right here. He has an interesting way of, or actually Ducat, he has an interesting way of pointing it out, where he says that, it's as if Saturn's iron heel brutally pins poor Sagittarius, the lightest, the most ethereal of the fire signs, to the floor of inflexible Malkuth. And that's very true. It's as if we ourselves, that Saturnian iron heel is actually ourselves. It's our inability to really focus on what our soul really wants. We also have to remember this is a fire card. Fire is our passion. Fire is our drive. Fire is that internal flame that keeps going. And Sagittarius is all about taking that fire and moving really quickly in the direction it needs to move. So when we pin it down, of course, we end up being imprisoned by it. So that's my take on 10 of Wands. Comment, let me know in the comment section. How do you see this? How does this card comes up for you? Has it ever, by the way, came up for any of you in the readings in terms of literally meaning jail or prison time? Do you see this in a spiritual sense that there's some soul calling work that is not being fulfilled? That's another way that, by the way, I see this card. When I do the reading, instead of interpreting this card as you burdening yourself, just simply saying that, you know what, it seems like there's some soul calling that you're not you're not paying attention to, that you're really not executing or making happen in your life. So comment, let me know how you see this card. What's your interaction with this card? What's your interaction also with these two cards? Because everybody will see these two cards differently. Let me know, and I'll chat with you all next time. I have another giveaway, so we'll do a giveaway next time. Bye.